All right, guys, welcome back to the shack. Tonight, I've got something I've been waiting on. I have really been researching this thing, trying to decide, if it's going to live up to the hype. And tonight, we'll get to find out because I have got the Atezr P20 delivered today, and fixing to open up the box, see what all's in there, try to see if I can put this thing together with what little bit of knowledge of these things I have, and try to make some smoke. So if this is something you're interested in, if you've been asking yourself the questions that I have about the Atezrs and if they're worth the price or not, then stick around because we're going to find out. All right, guys, so here it is. Didn't look like it got banged up on delivery, so that's good. Sometimes these things show up and have gotten a little damage, but not this box. Looks nice and flat. All the corners are square, so I think we're good to go. I will tell you that the shipping weight of this thing was 26 pounds, so this is definitely no lightweight. And I know my buddy Steve, he should be cracking into his about now. So the two of us both have the machine coming. And it's kind of a race at this point, guys, just to see which one of us can, can get into them first. I was teasing him today when I found out it got delivered. Okay, so right here at the top appears to be a piece of metal cutting surface, which I'm probably not going to be using because this thing, from what I have read, has a 430 by 430 work area, and this is going to limit me. And y'all know I like the bigger work areas, but at least I do have an extra piece of metal to use for testing and whatnot. So let's see what's behind door one here. Wow, that is a huge module. If that's the module. Is that the module? No, air assist. Did not know I was getting the air assist with it, guys. Pleasant surprise. Very pleasant surprise. Nice build. I mean, this, guys, I'm gonna be honest with you, they're impressing me with the build quality of the way it looks. So I've got an installation manual, which we will be trying to use, guys. I mean, you know I'm terrible at trying to follow these books, but we will be trying to use it. So let me see if I can get a little better positioning with the camera. All right, so now I think you can see me. You can see what I'm working with here. I do have the manual, and this is actually a thick manual. This is not one of the little postcard manuals you're used to. So I see it does have several different languages in here. So, that's gonna, I'm sure that's not going to make the whole book's not going to be in English, but at least it's more than just a little pamphlet. Then you got the user manual here. There again, several different languages. I'll have to find my language of choice. Instruction manual, from the best I can read on my French on the back. That's for the air assist. That should be a no-brainer, but we'll set that there just in case. All right, so lots of parts hidden underneath here. Guys, this thing's massive. The beams on it are huge. Oh yeah, guys. This is definitely going to be one for the clack shack here. Look at the size of that guy. That's massive. All right, so I'm gonna have to kind of lay these parts over here to the side until I can get the book and figure out what goes where. Most of them I can kind of recognize what they are. I've been watching some videos trying to figure out how this thing goes together. Look at the size of this guy. That's gonna be, it's gonna be nice to have that big of a work area. I've been so used to a 16 by 16 for so long. Several brackets here. I'm just going to lay this stuff out and try to get it in somewhat of a orderly fashion so that I can find them when I go to putting this thing together. All right, here's the gantry, it appears. Typical belts. Well, that's pretty robust. Belts are already attached to the gantry, so that's good. Typical green safety glasses, that's a good deal. All right, so I'm gonna have, I'm guessing I'm gonna have a power supply for the laser as well as one for the air assist. So I'm gonna be on the lookout for that, okay? There's a hose and power cable, so I'm guessing that one goes with the air assist. Okay, here's what I've really been wanting to look at. This is the module, and it is a pretty good sized module. I've seen a lot of the videos. Some of the things that I have heard some folks, you know, had some things to say about was this being reflective, and I see that I got lucky. I got the one that is not the reflective material. It is simply orange, so that's good. I'm glad I didn't get the mirrored one because it does not look like, well, actually, it does look like you could take that off if you wanted. This whole piece looks like it would come off. Looks like it had a screw here and a screw here, and then it would raise off. But if you do take it off, you're really not gaining a lot because the air assist nozzle is kind of flat with the top of the shield. So unless you take the air assist nozzle off, you're really not going to gain any clearance by taking that loose. So we're going to leave that as is for now. I do like the fact that I did get the one that you can see through, so that's good. USB cable, a bag of parts and goodies. A cable. This one does have the controller, I believe. I've heard that the P20s have the little controller. I actually like these. These are neat. I don't use them a whole lot, but I do like that you have that option. So, and I have another power splitter. Okay. Okay, so it's a 1 in, 2 out power splitter. So I'm guessing I'll only have one brick that will run both the air assist and the machine. Haven't seen that before. Another rail, belt already attached. That's a plus because those belts can be a little pesky. And the other rail, belt already attached. So the belts are already on this one. That's one less thing to have to concern yourself with. I'm gonna make sure I'm not overlooking any other pieces or parts to this thing in here anywhere. And then we're gonna get this box out of the way, guys. All right, guys, I got all the parts laid out. First appearances, first impressions of the build. I like the fact that all the belts are on there. Sometimes those things can be a little challenging. The way they designed this thing, all the pieces, I mean, you don't have a lot of belts or anything to put together, it doesn't appear. It does come with this little bag. It does have one more belt in there. Not sure where that one goes or if that's just a spare, because I have a left belt, a right belt, and a gantry belt. So there is a possibility that this belt is a spare. And you guessed it, spare belt. So that is not one we'll be using for the build. Not sure what that is. I'll have to read that in the book. Just gonna go through here and see what all's in the bag. Got a micro SD card with a reader. There's probably gonna be some software or firmware on that. Spare parts package. So there's a spare screws. That's pretty nice that they're actually giving you, especially like these little grub screws, because I can see where those would get lost real easy. So that's very thoughtful of them to include spares. Okay, screw packs, step 1, step 2, and step 3, and step 4. A couple of Allen wrenches and an open end wrench put together with a zip tie. So those are going to be my tools. Got some little small cable ties there. That'll be for cable management, I'm sure. Got a few blank cards and a piece of really thick acrylic, which appears to be, I don't know if that's the focus. I thought this thing had a leg. Yes, this has a leg, which is, yes, it's a very tight focus. So that actually may be a secondary way of setting the focus. And I believe it is. So it looks like you have the choice of using the leg or this piece of acrylic. So we'll just kind of lay that to the side. I won't be using these wooden cards at the moment, so I'm going to put all this stuff back in the bag here. Got some nice little 3M, looks like hose brackets that have 3M adhesive on the back of them. I'm sure we'll get to that and the cable management part of this build. Usually I don't like to secure the cables until I see how the machine moves and see what gets in the way where. So we'll be holding off on that. This stuff here, I'm going to go ahead, all of the things that I know are going to be last to put together or either not needed for this part, I'm going to go ahead and get them off the table and out of my way. The power cable, we've got the controller, SD card reader, even the air hose and the pump. I'm going to go ahead and move them out of my work area so that I can use this table, because this machine's bigger than what I'm used to, so it's going to take a little more room. Okay, got lucky on the language. This one, apparently English is the very first as you go in there. It has English on the top here, but there are some other language that I see in there, but English is pretty much the first one you come to. So it shows a breakdown of all the parts and everything that should be in the packaging, which it appears that I have everything I should. And then some cautions. Of course, lasers are dangerous. Don't shine them in your eyes, that type of thing. Then we get over to step one. So, nice color pictures. Okay, maybe we may actually be able to do this one using the book, guys. So that's what I'm going to try anyway. I'm going to go ahead and move these out of my way because it appears that everything I'm going to need is going to be in here. So step one says you got to have the framework. It does have these parts numbered with A1 and A2. Not exactly sure on the A1 and A2. The others look pretty simple. B1 is going to be the part that has the controller on it. So we're going to move this over here. All right, this is going to be part B1. The branded end is going to be part B2 according to the instructions. So I'm going to move all this. This thing's going to be huge, guys. We're going to be able to do some big stuff on this. So B1, B2. Okay, A2 and A1. All right, they look remarkably alike. The only difference that I see in the illustration is A1 has a stepper motor visible in the photo. So I'm going to guess that this is going to be A1. It shows it being oriented with the stepper motor towards the front. So we're going to do that. Go ahead and just sit this guy up. Try to get it stand up for me. I'm going to move this laser head back here out of the way because I know that'll be further down the road from where we are now. All right. Yes, this thing is going to take up my whole work table here. All right, and so since this one does not have a stepper motor, I'm going to assume that this one is A2. It is showing on the illustration that these two screw holes here should be oriented upward. That's the way it shows it on the illustration. That's the way we're going to go with it. All right, I'm going to go back and just confirm. Stepper motor should be left near the red knob for the emergency shutoff. This side does not have a stepper. Okay, so I have all four parts where they're supposed to be. So, according to this, I'm going to need step one, which should be, according to the illustration, M4, number 12, 16 pieces. And that's what it says on the package. So guys, this may be the first time ever I have been able to successfully follow a book with a laser build. So I'm going to pour these guys right here in the table so I don't have to fight with that little bag. Find the appropriate wrench. And I'm going to be using the tools that come with the machine, guys. No fancy screwdrivers or anything like that. I'm going to put this thing together just like you guys would if you bought it and had it at home. Even though I do have a nice little set of screwdrivers over there that are Allen, we're going to avoid using them. So, step one, it is saying to put the screws in here. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to start just like it shows in the illustration. It's showing starting over here. So that's what we're going to do. Trying to follow directions, which is something that I sometimes struggle with. Very tight fit. Very tight fit. If you don't get this thing lined up perfectly, it's not going to go. So that's good. That's low tolerances means less chance of things moving. So I do like that. So it's showing, put the screw in here, and then there's going to be, it looks to be 3 more on the other. So I'm just going to get that one. I'm not going to tighten that one all the way down. Go around here and put these other 2 guys in. Total of 4 screws in this corner. All right, so according to the book, the next step, step 2, is install the belt tension adjustment nut. So step 2, I have 2 screws. It says nut, but this is a screw. So I'm guessing this is what they're referring to. It is showing that they go into this hole that is in the back right here, right between the screws that I just got through putting in. So I'm going to push those in, and yes, there is something that catches them. So I'm going to just tighten that down until it's snug. It doesn't really say how tight to tighten them, but since the belts seem to have already had pretty good tension on them when I got them, I'm thinking that they've already been tensioned, because you can see there's a tension adjustment screw here on the outside. So I don't want to over tighten these and cause that to slide. So I'm just going to snug them down until they hit, just as a precaution to make sure that the tension doesn't back off of the belts. Yeah, the belts appear to be tensioned well. We'll check that later on. All right, so that's step 2. On to step 3. Install the X-axis assembly. So we're going to be needing this guy. All right. The illustration shows that, of course, the module will be toward the front. Now, I've got my machine backwards from the illustration, but that's what the illustration shows. So I'm going to set that down. It appears that it lines up with these 2 brackets here, and has 4 screws that go through the top. So I'm guessing my next bag of screws for step 3 are going to be long ones, and they are. So far, guys, really simple. Not difficult at all. right, I'm just going to get these started on this side, and then I'm going to start the ones on the other side, just as a preventative measure to make sure I don't, you know, over tighten and then can't get this side lined up. So all 4 screws are started. I'm going to get that back here towards me where I can work with it a little better. Make sure my wrench, always make sure your Allen wrench seats really well in these screws. Sometimes the Allen wrench doesn't want to seat, and if you put too much tension on it and it's not seated all the way, you can strip out the head on the screw and make it a little difficult to get out or tighten. So these are a little tight where they've been coated after they were made. So you may want to press down on them and just make sure that your Allen wrench is securely in the bottom of the hole. Yeah, all 4 of those are a little snug, so I had to give it a little push downward. Got those nice and snug. We're good to go on that. And you'll notice that currently the sides can move independent of each other. I'm assuming at some point we'll be putting a timing rod in to make sure that those sides stay together. But that's not where we're at currently, so we're going to stick with the book. Step 4, install bottom feet supports. So we're going to have to upside down this thing. So I'm just going to move my cable over in the middle so I don't break anything. And we're going to flip this guy over. Now, step 4, pay attention to the distinction between left and right support feet. Step 4, screws. All right. Got those guys out. All right, so it's saying that there's a distinction between the left and right. And from the illustration here, I can tell that what they want to happen, well, guys, let's face it, the screw holes are already here. So if you don't put them in the appropriate right or left, your screw holes aren't going to line up. So don't stress yourself about that, okay? It says in here, pay attention to the distinction between left and right of support feet, but that's the only way they're going to fit because one side's longer than the other. So if you don't have the right one in the right place, you're not going to have a hole to put a screw in. So that really shouldn't be a concern. Step 4 is complete. I've got the legs on it. Moving over to step 5. All right, step 5 says to install the polished rod, which I'm guessing, since I only have the one more part left, this is what we would be referring to. And it's in saran wrap. So this may take a minute. Okay guys, not a fan of the saran wrap. I finally just had to break down and take my knife and just scrape this to get it off. I sure didn't want to do it, but after fighting with it for several minutes, I chose that was my best course of action. So this rod, according to the illustration, is going to go from the stepper to here. It does have the locking block that many of us are familiar with other lasers. So I'm gonna move the cabling out of the way because it's kind of crowded right there. And gonna need to turn that stepper motor just a little bit to get the screws to point the way that would be easiest to get out. So rotated that just a little. Different size Allen wrench. All right, so I've got that one loose. That one's an even smaller size. So I've got that one loose and that up. So let's go in. There's a hole from the outside. Almost forgot. There's a hole from the outside of the machine. So you just slide it in from the outside, which is handy because it would be a job getting it in there without that hole. And it goes all the way across into the little locking block on this side. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull pressure towards this side and tighten up the little locking screws there. There's two of them, so I'm going to double check the other one to make sure that it wasn't loose from the factory. It appears that it's tight. So, as with any of the other machines, it doesn't really, it says lock the polished rod by turning it. Okay, so they don't really go over anything in detail on this, but from my experience, guys, with builds where they have this timing rod, the one thing that you want to be sure of is you want to be sure that everything is timed the way it's supposed to be. And this is kind of the same technique that I use for my other machines, is to allow the machine to, see if it'll go to the top. Okay, yes. So you're going to want to let it go all the way to the top up here until everything strikes, because it's got some little pins that come out off of these pieces that strikes the top. So I'm going to let it go all the way until it's touching on both sides. And then I'm going to tighten up the set screws on this tension rod, on this timing rod. That way I know that one side's not higher than the other. I don't know if this thing has more than one tensioning grub screw, so I'm going to tighten that one. I'm just going to ease it down and check, see if there's another one. Looks like there's one more on the other side. So there's going to be a total of 2 grub screws on the left side that need to be tightened. I've got both of those tightened at this point. So I'm just going to pull it back up to the top and just confirm that it's hitting both sides at the same time. Now the sides should not move independent of one another, but let me just check it without any weight on it and see. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to kind of check this belts and see if it appears it needs tightening anymore. Yeah, I'm going to call that plenty. It didn't just race down to the other end. It probably wouldn't hurt to tighten them a little bit, but this is a new machine. I don't want to over tighten it out the gate, so we're gonna run it like that. But I'm gonna go ahead and go to the next step as it's directing me to. All right, so next step is mounting the laser, and it simply shows an illustration of the laser being held like this and placed in there. So, simple enough. So we've got a dovetail on the back of the laser module. It slides down. Now you're going to have to back off of this adjustment screw on the back side here until it lets it slide down. And then once it slides down, I do like that design better than a lot of the others. I'm going to throw that out there, guys, because in my opinion, that's putting even pressure. One, it's rubbing against the module, the inside of the module, not the track. And so over time, you shouldn't get that tight spot like you do with some machines, because the machines where the screw comes in from the side, it does generate a little tight spot on that dovetail. So I like that design. I like that idea better. and it seems to have plenty of play up and down, so that's really nice. All right, step 7, install cable tie. And the illustration that it is showing is the little hose, these guys. So we're going to follow the book. So it is basically showing that on the back side of the gantry, you want to run those along here. There we go. And then it is showing on the side near the controller here, 3 down this way. So we'll be doing that. And I'm assuming that probably you would just want to go from the middle toward the front because you're going to have some loop back going on in the rear. So first one I'm going to put right behind the leg here. And I'm going to kind of center these on this bottom rail just to try to hide them a little bit. And I'm going to put the next one right here. It's not really giving me a good reference, but from knowing the mechanics of a laser, I'm going to say probably just shy of halfway to where it doesn't get tight. So I'm going to drop that one there. And I've actually gotten an extra one of these. It says ×6 on the instructions, but I actually have 7. So I guess I got one extra in case I have one fall off or something. All right, so for the cable, it looks fairly cut and dried, guys. This entire cable, just to give you an idea of how easy this is, has one plug here, one here, 2 here, and then 1 there. So I've got a total of 5 places that things plug in. And pretty much if you just look at the cable and where it runs, the first one right here, you can see obviously goes to the stepper. Now it's kind of precariously placed beneath the frame. And if you have larger fingers, you may have a hard time getting in there to get that guy in, but it is highly doable. The Wi-Fi antenna is a little loose, but I don't think that's a concern. So I'm going to leave that guy as it is. All right, so I'm going to bring the cable. Okay. The one thing that I will add is you may want to try to like hide the cable behind the rail before you connect the stepper motor, because it does kind of, the plug for the stepper does kind of get in the way if you're trying to hide that cable. So I had to unplug mine and reattach it to keep from putting pressure on that. All right, the next part, I'm going to flip this over to where I can see it a little better, is there's a limit switch right here near the controller. So I'm going to go ahead and let this gantry go down a little bit, see where everything's going to land. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull this guy over and go ahead and clamp it into this little holder here first. Okay, the little clips are a little tight, so I'm going to kind of have to pull that out a little bit, keep from tearing the sheathing. There we go. All right, so once I get that done, I do see that you're going to have to make sure not to have this wire in the way of the chassis as it slides back and forth. So I'm making myself a little working loop, more or less, just kind of training that wire around this piece that comes forward here. All right, guys, I never thought I would see the day that a machine made my nibble honeycomb look like it was small, but the day has come. All right, guys, so we're down to the last few steps before we're operational. I've got all the cabling done. I'm gonna bring the air assist pump over here, go ahead and slide the hose on it. And I'm gonna set this guy over here beside the machine so that it's easily accessible. I think that's the way it was intended to be. Got the power brick here. After step 8, which is the cables, it says mission completed. So I guess we're good. We'll find out shortly. All right, so I've got this little Y cable, it appears. And my conclusion for this guy is that you get one power brick, but this one power brick provides power for both the machine and the air assist pump. Won't be using those guys. The little controller will be connecting. I do like playing with those guys and using them occasionally. This is just spare parts, so I'm gonna lay that over to the side for a moment. Won't be using this cable because it's not gonna reach over there where I'm gonna be using my machine from. So I'll be bringing my own cable to this one. So luckily it is a standard printer USB that everybody has plenty of. So I'm gonna go ahead and plug this into my little power block here on my extension cord. I'm just gonna set this guy over here out of the way. I'm gonna slide everything over to the right some so I don't get hung on that extension cord while using this guy. We'll clean some of this mess up before we actually go live here. I am gonna have to break out my big ComGrow honeycomb for this thing. It's a little big for what I've got it sitting on. So one power is gonna go into the machine. I'm gonna go ahead and activate the emergency stop just in case, until I get my glasses on. Air assist pumps is gonna sit right here. It does work. I have air. That is magnetic. Learned that the hard way. Standard connection for these guys. Some of the other machines use them. It's more or less a HDMI cable that stretches. So I'm gonna go ahead and plug that on. Stick that up there. Or I could stick it to the honeycomb for that matter. All right. The TF card is right here. So just for the sake of knowing what's on the TF card, if there's any softwares or whatever, I always put them in my machine. And if there's any owner's manuals or whatnot, I go ahead and copy that over to my computer and put it in a machine file specifically for the different machines. So let me bounce over here and see what's on here. All right, guys, I put the card into my computer and copied what files were on there over to the computer. I recommend that you do that. One reason is if you do accidentally lose this, a lot of times there's an owner's manual or a copy of the firmware or whatever is on the card. So it's not a bad idea to make a backup copy just in case. I'm gonna go ahead and put the TF card in there. The contacts orient this way. And of course you can't really get that in there but one particular way. And I'm gonna get my handy dandy, really long USB cable here. So that when I do decide to run it from the machine, from my computer, I can. But first, let's play with this offline controller a little bit and just see what it's capable of. So I'm gonna grab me some glasses and dig in my bin over here and get a little piece of test material. And guys, let's see what this guy's got. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and move this over and set the focus. It's quite a drop for this guy. All right, get the little leg up. It's not a, they did put, I've seen some people say that this was kind of hard to get to because it just had that, but they've actually put a little pin on that. So it's relatively easy to get to. it goes back up. So if that was a concern, along with the reflective shield. The shield does have a little bit of reflectivity right now just because of the lighting, but it is not the one that I saw that had the mirrored finish. So that's a plus. All right, guys, going glasses on. I'm going to disengage the emergency stop, power on the machine. I'm assuming I powered on the machine. Nope, emergency stop has to be released. All right. So, the little controller is coming on. So it appears everything appears to be working, guys. So let me, I'm gonna just see if I can navigate with the machine here. All right, so I've got carve. There's some settings. Touch tone, about, language. Nothing too extensive. 3mm, 2mm plywood cutting. I'll play with that. So I'm gonna home it or hit the home button, see what happens. Okay, that's smooth. Does have limit switches. Yes, homing was successful. I'm going to frame the design that it has. All right, let me see here. It said center point, so I'm guessing that's the center of the engrave. We'll find out here in just a second. Let me get my material moved underneath the machine. All right, and start. I'm gonna go with, on this is just a little file that was on here. I'm gonna run 2 passes because it said it was for 2mm plywood. So we'll just run 2 passes. See what this guy does. Oh, got the air assist is not on. So there's going to be some scorching because I wasn't thinking about the air assist, guys. And I do not have it in an enclosure, so we're just going to have to contend with the smoke. This is using the offline controller, guys. I haven't hooked it up to Lightburn yet, haven't configured it with Lightburn. This is going to be just part of the assembly video, and we'll go from there. I just want to make sure it does work as advertised. I did do my job of putting it together. This cut is being run 2 passes, so if anything needs tensioning or anything like that, running 2 passes on this design should tell on itself and show me that I need to go back and fix the cables or the belts. So that was the purpose. I just wanted to run it just to see it work and go from there. All right, it completed the file, and like I said, guys, this was one of the little files that was on the SD card, so I'm not even sure how it was set up, but I can tell you that in 2 passes of whatever settings they had in there, it successfully cut out a miniature dog. All right, I didn't have the air assist on for these first couple of cuts, so that's on me, guys. But that's using the offline controller. The yellowing here, that was my bad. I forgot to turn the air assist on. But if you look at the other side, the miniature dog worked well. That file stated it was for 2mm plywood, so I ran it 2 passes just to make sure. Got some nice clean burns. Nice, really fine cut lines. And you can see the detail around the dog's tail here. And see, this is 4.5mm plywood that I'm cutting. So as you can see, the kerf on this guy is phenomenal. So it was really tight to get it out of there because there's not a lot of tolerance coming out. But great run for a first test, and now let's move over to Lightburn. I'm not gonna bring you along on the computer because I don't expect this to be very hard. What I'm gonna do right now is I'm opening up Lightburn, and basically I'm just gonna plug this thing up and I'm gonna let you know how it goes as far as getting it connected. Now we'll be using my really long laser engraver cable that I had to get me a long enough one that I could walk across here without tripping over it. So luckily I found one and got it. So got that plugged up. I kind of agree with some of the other folks that I've seen do reviews about this machine. The only down thing that I can say so far is I wish the plugs were on the side, not sticking straight up in the air, but small detail, not gonna fret about it. So far, so good with the machine. So I powered up the machine, and I'm gonna move over to Lightburn. And all I'm gonna do, guys, is I'm going to Devices, and I'm gonna click Find My Laser. And it's gonna tell me to make sure the USB is connected, which it is. So I'm just gonna hit Next, and we'll see what happens. Let's see if this thing finds it and how easy it is to connect to Lightburn. I'm getting a little prompt, scanning for connected devices. I am running a Windows PC, running Windows 10. All right, it's showing me two machines, which I've already got one connected to the machine, to my computer. One is showing up as a 430 by 430 millimeter machine. And I know from my research that that's gonna be this guy. So I'm gonna go ahead and select that one. The other one that's showing up is a device that I already have on my machine. So I'm gonna be naming this let me check the spelling, guys. Atezr P20. All right, it automatically populated in the work area 430 by 430. So I'm just gonna hit Next. The origin of the machine using the offline controller, it homed front left. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave that front left where it's marked. It does ask if I want it to auto home at startup. I'm gonna go ahead and leave that engaged. We can always turn that off later if we want. So I'm gonna hit Finish. All right, guys, thanks for stopping by. That's my assembly video for the new P20. If you have any problems with your machine, I do recommend that you maybe go back and kind of trace your steps back, especially in the alignment of the gantry, as well as the connecting rod that connects the two sides that kind of times everything together. Those are two common things that I see with machines. If you start having some mismatched cuts or maybe some oblong shapes, that type of thing, typically that's going to be related to belt tension or the timing rod that connects the two. And so if you want to go back through the steps, you can kind of fast forward through the assembly video in the future if you ever need to reference it to do that again. But I'm also going to be doing some testing with the machine, and I'm going to drop that video down below in the description so that you can just click on that if you want to go see some of the testing that I'm doing with the machine. It has performed well. I'm very pleased with it. You will need a large enclosure for this machine. It's a very large machine and requires a very large enclosure. So that's something I'm going to have to work through with my permanent enclosures, is neither one of my enclosures will accommodate this guy. And it does have a place to stay now. This one's not going to be getting kicked out of the shack anytime soon. I've seen enough performance already to know that it is going to fit well in my workflow, and so it's going to be staying with me for a while. So appreciate you for stopping by, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to comment. Give me a like, thumbs up. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. I've got all kinds of content with all kinds of machines and even more coming. So until next time, guys, as always, be safe and have a good day.